And I am joined, of course, by our usual Friday contributor, Janelle John-Bates, attorney at law, and, a young leader of the nation.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for that vote of confidence.
Yes, I have confidence. I mean, if I didn't have confidence, then, it's kind of weird to have you in the show there. If it was like, if I kind of doubted you and your opinions,
That's a point.
I would kind of be looking silly at that stage. But there's a couple of stories that kind of just came by surprise, at least to me, because I think I underestimated this first one that I want to get into, and that is with regards to the minimum wage. Of course, we had Labor Day.
I was going to say, why are you surprised? We had Labor Day.
We had, right, but I don't think, like last year, we heard some of the same thing. Government is anti-labor, let's rise up and band together, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, for the last 2 years, I have been disappointed with the negotiation tactics of the unions. Right. So I kind of don't take it on. But it seems as though the minimum wage issue is not just a union issue, to be fair.
Okay.
Right? And it's a wider issue that at the very least, regardless of if you agree or disagree with it, it deserves to be considered properly.
I agree.
Right? And I just thought maybe this was kind of just one of those Labor Day things. Oh, we kind of, talk, but it'll just die down. But it doesn't seem to be dying down, because I think the Minister of Labor is, he took the topic before Cabinet.
Okay.
But it's being reported recently. But like you asked, I am not sure why we have the figure of $30.
Yes, when I first heard the call by JTOM, I believe it was, for $30 minimum wage, my first question is, where did they get $30 from? Why that figure? I couldn't get an answer as to why that figure, but I did some maths. So I said, okay, well, let me do some maths. And I first did a calculation of our current minimum wage, $17.50. Multiply that by 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, a reasonable amount. And the amount you get from that is $2,800.
Right.
How is a person supposed to survive on $2,800 a month? I said, okay, let me do 6 days a week, because I believe many people who work for minimum wage actually work about 6 days a week. It's still only $3,360. I do not believe anyone in this country should be making less than $4,000, and $4,000 is like an absolute minimum for me. I don't see how you could survive otherwise, and that's $4,000 if you're living in a multi-family home. It's not you trying to rent alone with a child and
live alone and raise a
you're
family
living
alone.
with your parents, your siblings, a roommate, a spouse, something. So I said, first minute, I definitely agree $17.50 is too little. But then I did a calculation for $30, and you get $30 by 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, you still only get $4,800. So I guess if you look at it that way, to give somebody a living wage, $30 is not a really exorbitant amount of money to ask for. But then a jump from $17.50 to $30, can small and medium-sized businesses actually afford that big leap?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's so much more discussions. All I ever see in the papers is, JTOM, we need more money, small and medium businesses, we can't afford that.
The irony is, I guess one of the questions that you were alluding to before before we started was, well, who actually is on minimum wage? What industries, what jobs are actually at that level that this is going to affect? Because the flip side is, next thing you know, for the vast majority, like for 99.9999999 the population, this is not even something that matters, and this whole debate could just be a red herring of politics.
Exactly. So I think, again, data, we need data. To make decisions, we need to be data-driven. So as you had mentioned, as I had said before, how many people actually make $17.50? What are the industries? What are the sectors? How many people, both from the employer and employee side, would actually be affected by the $30 raise? And then, are there other options? For example, right now we have a minimum wage across the board, but what about a sectoral minimum wage? Like, I don't hear these sort of discussions. Maybe I'm missing it. But I don't see these sort of discussions, and I think it's important for people to make that sort of educated decision if this is going to be, for example, a point that will be raised with the upcoming election.
The thing is, usually, unfortunately, and this is the world over, when you have when you want to rally the population, you're going to like take the simplest version of the truth, and that's where you start off, where politicians kind of start off on. You're not really lying, but you're editing. You know, you're giving a little spin. You're not withholding information from the public, but to be fair, to be practical for communication, you just go with a basic, simple message. And the simple way is we just $30 an hour, right? No other.
But you said the politician. Do you consider trade unionists politicians?
Yeah.
Because to me, because to me, the duty is not only on the government to give us information in relation to this. Those who are opposing it should also present their data. All they say is, as I said, small and medium businesses can't afford it, but give us more information in relation to that. JTUM, give us more information into how you believe that this, because the $30 minimum wage does not only affect the government.
And like I said, I didn't necessarily think this was, I didn't think this issue was going to carry as it did, where now Cabinet, at the very least, maybe they'll throw it out, but they have it in front of them, right? On the surface, just the economic theory of, well, if you just give out more money at a time when inflation is driven by supply chain deficiencies and supply deficiencies just on a whole. So we don't have enough. We have more money than we have goods. It's driving inflation. We put more money out there. It's not really necessarily going to help in theory. But the flip side is, if most of the population this is not going to affect, for the few that it does affect, it might actually be a big deal, a big help.
Maybe people already make more than $17.50. I don't know. Maybe most people who are at that level already make $20 an hour. Because I found an old article where the person was saying, we can't get anybody in construction to come and work for $17.50 to mix concrete. And it's not happening.
The irony is labor also. Because of, in my opinion, the way how governments have hired way too many people, the labor market for like the last 10 years or so has been a supplier's market. That is to say, the laborer's market. It's not.
You think there's a laborer's market?
To some jobs, not all. To some
again,
jobs.
sector, based on the sector, the industry, region, and again, this discussion is nuanced, and I'm not hearing that nuanced discussion coming out of it.
Because in America, they were looking to have a national minimum wage in a country where cost of living and the economy, just like each state had its own levels of wages and balance point for cost of living and so forth. And they had a lot of different complications because of it.
Yeah.
That when you simplify the message, you kind of lose a lot. And for us, I think it's the same thing. There's a lot to learn there with regards to what sectors now the minimum wage could wreck things. One of the examples is the fact that in the States, because it seems as though they wanted the minimum wage to be a wage where you could raise a family of four with
I think they call it a living wage.
Which to some extent kind of defeats some of the purposes of a minimum wage.
So a minimum wage shouldn't be that. To be a minimum wage should be a living wage. It shouldn't be that you have to work 5
to raise a family.
But that
because one of the things is, because you put the minimum at that level for a family of 4, now all of a sudden jobs that college students and high school students,
you mean it depends on the type of...
It pushes the labor market up to a point where a lot of these low-paying jobs that would have been fine for a single person to get experience when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, it's now legally priced out of existence.
True.
And that's why I think you have this phenomenon where for an entry-level job, they're like, well, we want somebody with experience. It's like, how am I going to get experience if I can't get an entry-level job?
Fair enough. I take your point. So, but then it comes down to then industry. So maybe certain industries, in that industry, you normally cater to a particular class of worker. So college students, you are targeting that sort of student. I could say, okay, maybe the minimum wage for that might be different from...
Right.
Well, I won't use the word professional. A professional job would not be at the minimum wage. It defeats the purpose of being a professional.
The flip side is with bureaucracy, the more like categories you put in and complications and how do you classify this and then what will be the official way that we recognize this classification, then you have a lot of wiggle room for all kind of fraud and blah, blah, blah.
I don't see that as a way to dissuade it. Again, right now we have nothing. It's just a base. This is the minimum wage. Again, what is wrong in trying? Again, I'm not hearing the discussion. What categories we could try to use, why we cannot do it at all. Don't tell me you can't do. For me, I need to know why. Show me that it's not possible to do it that way. And then again, okay, so JTUM says $30. Well, why not 20? Because
given the maths that you gave, I would argue on the flip side, why not 35?
Well, but again, why not? So we need a different, show me from a mathematical point of view, show me from a sociological, economic, inflation, this, that, because an argument could be made if your economy is sluggish. You want to get that money so it can be circulating. Yeah. If I can barely feed myself, I can't spend on any other industry again to get entertainment industry or whatever moving. So the economy will remain sluggish. So that's the flip side to the inflation argument.
To be fair, it's not as though the supermarket shelves are bare. So I think we have potentially some room for more money in the hands of consumers to try to counter the price raises. But I don't know what the room is. And this is where, to your point, we need to know, like, okay, exactly what would it mean to the economy? How much more money would be there? Right, and could the economy bear it?
But then prices of everything went up. I believe when I was coming on the road, I heard that flour prices are going to be raised. Really, $17.50 just now will just be impossible to live on.
I think one could make the argument it's impossible now.
Well, it is. Well, right. I would actually make the argument it's impossible now. But when I also look at the historical trend, this whole idea of a minimum wage first came into existence in Trinidad. It was either 1998 or 1997. I have it written there, but I lost the page. And thereafter, when I looked at it, every 4 or 5 years, we've actually raised the minimum wage about between $1 and $3.50. The last time we had an increase in the minimum wage was 2019. So if we look at that historical trends, we're in 2023, we're kind of at the point where historically we would be really thinking about raising the minimum wage. Of course, we had COVID, which scuttled our lives at least 2 to 3 years, if you want to say. So that sort of that would have changed our historical trend, if you want. But I think this is a good point, given historically, for us to have that discussion about raising it at least by, I say $20. That's me. I'm not
to 20.
To 20. I'm not an economist. We know that. But again, looking at the trend, looking at the maths, I would make an argument $20.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that argument, because when you dig deeper and you do the maths, you realize, well, I don't know how many people are working for $17.50 an hour. So, it's not going to affect bank employees. I don't think it's going to affect public servants. It's not going to affect supermarket employees. Maybe I'm wrong. It might affect people who their remuneration is not necessarily their direct salary. So that's one of the other things that needs to be looked into, like you said, sectoral. When you have other means of compensation, like tips, right? Now that was a big deal for the restaurants in the US.
Do we have a tipping culture here, though? Because I know for most people, a lot of people I know, they're like, why am I leaving a tip when there's a service charge? There's no such service charge in America, if I understand that correctly. So that's why tipping is a big culture for them.
Yeah.
What is the service charge for? But that's another discussion for another day.
Is that even legal? I don't know. But anyway.
The way they calculate it, I have a problem with that. I see they put the service charge, they put a VAT on the service charge. It's when you look at your bill in the restaurant.
No.
I don't agree with
the service charge is supposed to be taxed, not the other way around.
Whatever they do, it is crazy, but that's a separate topic.
So, well, I guess, it's a good time now to take a break. It's a complicated issue with regards to the minimum wage. And the irony, of course, is, as we mentioned earlier, it might not actually solve the problem for most of the population who are already ahead of the 1750. So the real question is, what really would be the issues that we should be solving? Is this going to solve anything? Maybe it will for some people, and we should find that out. Who are in such a dire straits that right now they're working for $17.50 an hour. Given the maths, 2,000 plus a month, that's
2,800. $17.50 by 8 hours by 5 days a week.
Just under 3. I don't know if that's
impossible.
Yeah, not in 2023 with these prices.